Right off the bat, The Curse is one of the greatest things I have watched in a very long time. And this is a show I've been really looking forward to ever since it was announced, not just because I'm a fan of Nathan Fielder, Nathan For You being one of my favorite shows, but I'm also a really big fan of the films of the Safdie brothers. Good Time and Uncut Gems are seriously fucking incredible, and I even really love their first film, Heaven Knows What. And even though the full duo didn't return to work on this show, half of them, Benny Safdie, not only produced and co-wrote the series, but also started it as well. And looking at the landscape of Nathan Fielder's career, this is definitely a slightly different direction, and I only say slightly because while he's never done a straight up narrative drama before like this, it does carry some of the reality bending themes that were tackled in Nathan For You and The Rehearsal. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this show until I get to the spoiler section of this video because I think it's best to go in super blind, but I will say that the plot of the show follows Nathan Fielder and Emma Stone playing a dysfunctional married couple that are running a reality TV show where they try to better the community of Espanola, not only by giving people jobs that they might need, but also by selling houses. And you quickly begin to see that under the surface of the show, even though it seems like these characters are doing charitable things, they really don't care much about the causes as they think they do. And it seems like the characters of the show are more focused on not just being perceived as good people, but convincing themselves that they are worthwhile as well, which naturally means that the show tackles a lot of themes about self-honesty and authenticity. And while these characters are truly ugly at times in their personality, I can't help but feel like these are the most human, realistic characters I've seen in entertainment in some time. So looking at Benny Safdie's previous work, he definitely really tries to capture this sense of realism. Carried over from his filmography, in The Curse, we see a lot of moments that you typically wouldn't see in movies or TV, a lot of just really awkward interactions that might not seem very cinematic, but it just makes you feel like you're not supposed to be watching it. Like, there's no way to properly relax watching a show like The Curse, and I love it all the more for it. Every character wears so many different masks in every different situation, and it's really like hard to decipher what their intent is at times, which could be seen as a criticism in something else, but clearly that's just the purpose of the whole show, is you're kind of sitting there questioning whether or not you should not necessarily root for the characters or root against the characters, but you're wondering, why should I be following them and why should I be feeling these intense emotions surrounding these situations? A lot of my favorite art begs the audience to ask questions about what they're taking in, and this is certainly no exception to that. And all these uncomfortable feelings are executed perfectly through the filmmaking lens, which is something that's certainly carried over from the Safdie brothers' other projects. While there isn't as much of the close-up shaky cam stuff that they used to do, everything still just feels so grimy, and a lot of that is conveyed through the grain that we see on screen, as well as some of the creative shot angles that are meant to just make you feel claustrophobic. Sometimes it won't even just be a close-up, but we'll be watching someone from behind like a tree or a plant or something, and there'll be so many things taking up the frame. Meanwhile, you'll be looking at the character far off from the background. The way they plan out shot composition is amazing too, because sometimes we'll be focusing on a strange part of the screen and you'll be wondering, why is the camera asking me to look right there? And then 20 seconds later, that thing will move and then we'll get the desired focus of that shot. And I'm not saying that every single piece of entertainment necessarily has to put in that much purpose and effort into every single frame. Like, I am by no means strict about the entertainment I watch. I think I'm actually very versatile with what I like. I enjoy me some good, fun, blockbuster popcorn fun, but I can't stress enough just how refreshing and how exciting, truly exciting it is to watch something with as much craft as you see in the filmmaking of The Curse. And oh my god, the score is absolutely fucking phenomenal, and that is also something that's a stylistic carryover from the Safdie brothers' previous films. This definitely scratched that itch of seeing a Safdie brothers project that I've been eager for ever since Uncut Gems. Even though it's only Benny Safdie returning, you still definitely get that same vibe, and it's so great. However, it should be said that their work is somewhat divisive, at least with casual moviegoers, because it is purposely aggravating, upsetting, anxiety-inducing to watch. Whereas for me, that just makes the experience all the more entertaining. I love following these characters on their awkward, painful journeys. But I've talked to so many people who've tried to watch Uncut Gems and absolutely despised it for that reason. So I guess I do just have to technically warn you about that that going into it, and since this is a review after all. But God, please just give me more of this style. I can't get enough of it. I love the anxiety of it. It all kind of blends together into giving you this trippy fever dream-like feel. Like, it's almost liminal. Watching this show at points, you feel like you are having a nightmare, especially towards the end of the show, but we'll get to that when we get to that. And to talk about the characters individually, you know, as I said before, they're extremely flawed and do really horrible things throughout the show, and it's hard to truly like any of them, but I weirdly found myself relating to Nathan Fielder's character Asher quite a bit. And that's something I'm not necessarily proud of, but I am also very happy to see some of the more awkward villainistic sides of living as someone with like severe insecurity and social anxiety on various different levels depicted here. I think the way characters are portrayed in the show, you'll be secretly relating with them, but you won't want to admit it, maybe not even to yourself. But again, it's that realism, it's that true attention and dedication to realism. And Emma Stone's character Whitney is just like so many people I've met in real life. Like, she has herself convinced that she's this amazing person, and she's willing to do anything she can to prove that, but a lot of her more charitable acts in the show just come off so fake and so forced and so two-faced. She screams desperation on every single level. Meanwhile, I think she's just as sick and twisted as like everyone else in this show. And I really, really fucking love Benny Safdie's character Dougie, who is simultaneously the best and the worst person in the cast, considering that you see him do some truly awful, unspeakable shit. Like, his character introduction, you immediately vilify him. But then at the same time, he's the only one of the characters who has moments of true honesty and moments where he gets vulnerable with people and you see him feeling remorse. And while none of those moments excuse some of his more vile actions, it really gets you to just kind of see he might be the most human, or at least honest, of the main three characters. I think all these performances are absolutely astounding. Like, and for me to just praise the performances almost seems kind of lazy talking about this show, because if you watch it, they're just so blatantly incredible every episode. But they're not incredible in a sort of Oscar baity type fashion. Like, even though there are some dramatic, emotional, explosive moments, a lot of the merit of these performances come from how nuanced they are, and that goes down to every subtle little detail. Alright, this is the point in the video where I'm going to say, if you have not watched it, please click off, please watch it. Even if the show isn't for you, I guarantee if you watch it, you'll at least get something out of it. I can't see anyone watching this and being upset that they made it to the end, because even if you despise the show with everything in you, it's just such a fascinating discussion piece, and I think it might go down as a really important piece of media. So yeah, go watch the show, go make your own opinion. I obviously recommend this show with everything in me, but I would love to hear some of your thoughts if you do want to comment. And this isn't the obligatory comment below and tell me what you think part of the video. I genuinely want to hear other people's thoughts and feelings about this series, because fuck, it's such an interesting discussion. And the spoiler section starts now. So I mentioned that Asher was the character I connected to the most. I too find myself in social situations where I am desperate to be liked by people, and that's admittedly a flaw of mine, but I guess the subplot that I really related to was whenever he started going to comedy classes in order to try and be funny. And at first it's for professional reasons, like he's doing it for the sake of the show, but then you start seeing he's really trying to take this seriously for himself as a person as well. And I thought a lot of his moments where he's telling these really blatantly awful jokes were just absolutely fucking hilarious. The show is clearly written, I mean, it's co-written by Nathan Fielder, but it's written around his personality, and it just works absolutely perfectly for his level of acting skills. But I guess, like, if you have seen The Curse and you're clicking on a review of it, most likely you want to hear what I think about that final episode. And yeah, I've seen some people saying this is the best ending in television history, and I've heard other people saying it is the worst ending in television history. And I understand both sides for sure, because whenever he starts floating it is very much so like, what the fuck is going on? Is this a dream sequence? And his whole explanation about the pressure in the air creating air pockets, you know, I'm thinking, is that a thing that can happen with this type of house? I don't know, I'm gonna go along with it. But the second that the dude pulls him out from under the roof and you see his legs sticking straight up in the air and he's getting sucked up, my mouth dropped. And my mouth stayed agape the entire rest of the episode. I sat there just absolutely not just shocked, and I'm almost embarrassed to admit this because I know it gets absolutely ridiculous and crazy in that last episode, but honestly I was fucking terrified. And part of that is like a personal thing. Weirdly enough, when I was like 6 years old, I had a nightmare where I died and I just floated up into the sky. Like, that's how death felt. I just kind of started floating and I couldn't stop floating. So this kind of attacked a truly primal childhood fear of mine. I've always been secretly scared of just the concept of suddenly floating in the air and not being able to stop it no matter what. Just, you gotta keep going up higher and higher and higher, and there's nothing you can do. And this show kind of did that times 10 because it was full on reverse gravity and he was getting sucked up super fast into the air. Like, that's just horrifying to me. And Nathan Fielder's performance was so real, and they played it all so serious. Like, they played it completely straight. So I just couldn't help but genuinely be scared as I was watching it. In fact, I want to say it's, and again, I feel silly saying this, it's one of the scariest sequences I think I've seen in anything. So I have to applaud the show for that. Like, holy shit. I go out of my way to watch a lot of disturbing, fucked up, controversial movies just because I like to experience new things. I like the adrenaline rush of watching something truly fucked up. But also because while I do love watching horror movies and whatnot, none of them ever truly terrify me. Well, the curse did it, man. This was actually just truly haunting for me. But aside from just like my sheer gut reaction to that sequence, I do also want to talk a little bit about my interpretation of it. And from watching interviews, Benny Safdie's made it clear he doesn't quite want to discuss what the ending means to him. He said he has his own idea of it, but he kind of wants to let people figure it out, and I think that's awesome. But he also disclosed in interviews that this is how they always planned for the show to end. And this was like one of their first ideas going into it, was they wanted to build to that climax. So looking at it from that perspective, the show is often talking about karma and fear surrounding the idea of being a bad person. And looking at Asher's character, he's someone who clearly doesn't know what he truly wants out of life. He has those core fundamental human desires to just be happy and to be accepted, and I think that's something we can all relate to. But in the penultimate episode where he sees Whitney's interview for the show, just completely trash talking him in every way and completely just dismantling their relationship, he has a moment where he runs out of the room, but when he comes back, he is crying and kind of begging her to stay with him. When we all know watching it, like, dude, this is not the right path for you. Obviously, this is not what you want. And you just see echoes like that of his character throughout the entire show. But now that things are going well for him, the show got picked up for season 2, and there's a baby on the way. I find it very fascinating that the day that his wife is giving birth, that's when this whole curse thing happens and he starts to shoot up into the air. I don't know if this is a stretch or not, but considering that I see shades of narcissism in Asher's character, I almost wonder if him flying into the air is a play on Icarus flying too close to the sun, because Asher keeps on reaching for this false idea of success, meanwhile not knowing his true self nor what he actually desires out of life deep down. And considering that the show has discussed karma earlier on through this whole notion of curses, I can't help but feel like this is his punishment for that. But at the same time, that is not a theory I'm married to whatsoever. It's just what I've been able to somewhat muster up. Maybe someday I'll do a full analytical breakdown video essay review of the show whenever I have a more concrete idea. But in general, I just love how the true colors of everyone is kind of revealed in that finale. Not only does the overbearing guilt from Dougie's character bleed through when he breaks down and starts bawling, but I think Whitney's reaction to her child being born and suddenly not giving a shit about Asher, and laughing to her child in an almost malevolent way just kind of proves that she never gave a shit about Asher. She never gave a shit about anyone else. She only cares about her own desires. I think that much can be said really about all three of these characters to varying extents. I could honestly gush about the curse non-stop for hours. I can't remember the last time I was this excited about a piece of entertainment. It feels so great that we have a show like this now. I'm so happy this show exists. Please watch it if you haven't already. And I think, of course, I have to give The Curse a full 10 out of 10. That being said, I could totally see someone watching this show and watching that ending especially and immediately giving the show a 0 out of 10. That's fine. Certainly not for everyone, but a lot of my favorite art happens to be divisive like that. So yeah, I felt like the show was kind of made for me. It was both everything I desire out of entertainment and also everything I didn't know I desired out of entertainment. And when a work of art can make you feel that way, to me that truly shows it is full of merit.